Soiza on the button, got busy with the Jack-10, Queen-7 for Jake. He has outflopped Soiza, top pair versus middle pair. Both players with a club on this Queen-Jack-Deuce-2.
All right, Christopher Soiza, you might not have heard of him, but he is a high roller regular, and he's got $9 million in Hendon. And here he is making what is, a decision that can be debated here on the flop, checking back with the Jack-10. What do you think about this?
My initial inclination is that I would like to see this be a bet most of the time, mostly because of the wet nature of the board. I understand we have a medium strength hand and we can be put in some weird spots, like a check raise already starts to feel very uncomfortable. And we block some of the, some of the hands that might decide to raise us, like 9-10 or King-10 because we have a 10 in our hand. Having said all of that, Jake called from the big blind. He's got a wide range. He has worse jacks. He has deuces. He may have some small pairs. He has some ace highs that he's going to call with, including also, by the way, gut shots, other straight draws, club draws. All these things we should be able to get some value out of. We don't have to bet big. We don't have to bet the turn if we don't want to. But my inclination is to bet here at least.
Yeah, I'm less inclined. I think it's fine to check back, especially with the jack of clubs in our hand for a little protection.
Yep.
From if Jake has clubs. That's pretty nice. It's not so bad to have a checking range, and if you're going to include some hands in your checking range, this one feels like it's right smack dab in the checking range.
That's
so
fair.
If you're going to have a checking range, which is going to include some give-ups, maybe you have to include this one, or else are you just betting 100% of your hands?
We definitely have a checking range that includes some value for sure. We have to have that. I completely agree. And so actually you're always going to have some jacks will be in your checks. By the way, some queens will be in your checks also. Some very strong hands will be in your checks, much stronger, like a little bit of queen jack or even a set. Sometimes will be a check. Rarely, but sometimes. But still, like, we have a lot of bets on this board, I think, in general. So, like, with a hand that actually connects with the board and has some stuff going on, it makes me want to bet most of the time.
Yeah, I'm fine with the check.
Yeah, I mean, it's not awful to check back, for sure.
The link in our pinned tweet is very important to you right now, because even if you're already on Nitrogen Sports, they are moving to Nitro Betting, which means you have to sign up again, but don't worry, it's very easy, and there's a lot of great benefits.
Yeah, by the way, the site is exciting and fun and colorful. It's beautiful, but also, like they have March Madness brackets. Now they have brackets for everything. Like Super Bowl squares. Now they have squares for everything. This is all on Nitro. It's great. It's fun, but you got to use the pinned tweet to get that Poker Guys monthly tournament and all the other cool stuff that you get.
Even if you already signed up for Nitrogen Sports, use the new link, and we will see you there.
Couple of checks now. The 8 on the turn.
8 of clubs, a very interesting card because Soiza, it actually improved his odds. He went from 1-4 to 1-3 essentially. So, because any club or a 9 now give him the best hand. So even though there's, instead of 2 cards to come, there's 1 card to come, it improved his chances substantially. And
enough to kind of overwhelm the lack of 2 shots at his holding. And Schindler leads out 9,000 here.
Happy to value bet top pair when his opponent checked back, and Soiza pretty happy to call with second pair and all that equity, but it's a Blankaruski. So now will Schindler value bet? And if so, what size? And will Soiza bluff catch? If Schindler checks, will Soiza value bet himself? I think Soiza won't. So I think the way Schindler, okay, so he does value bet, and I like that decision.
And let's get a look at the sizing into 32.5. 23K.
Or I guess just over 2/3, but close enough. Yeah, this is kind of a tough decision here. Again, having the jack of clubs is actually a decent blocker. You're blocking flushes as well as the 10 blocking straight, so I don't blame him for. Oh, but he turns his hand into a bluff, which is very interesting. Again, because the 10 is blocking the straight and the jack of clubs not only blocking potential 2 pairs but also flushes. So instead of calling, he raises here. It's a very interesting decision. And Schindler has an interesting decision right back because the 7 of clubs is a better than average blocker. Because here 1 pair is never good for value. So when you have 1 pair, you know, you are blocking the queen for any queens up. You know, will my opponent raise queens up for value? But the 7 of clubs blocking flushes, so this is not an instant fold. Schindler going to consider this deeply. I wouldn't even be surprised if he ends up using at least one time bank, frankly.
In it goes.
I like this. This is the most interesting hand in my opinion that's been played so far at this table. And you know, actually, I really kind of am impressed with this decision by Soiza to turn his hand into a bluff. I think it's quite a good one, and
It's compelling sizing too that he's put out there, because a lot of his please call me range includes this 75K.
yeah, at this type of sizing, it is one where Schindler could definitely convince himself that blocking queens up, like a hand like Queen Jack, Queen 8, maybe even Queen 6 is relevant.
Well, a poker player's job is to put the pieces of a puzzle together with incomplete information. What he does know is how Soiza proceeded.
Oh, multiple time banks. Told you. In the grinder.
Yeah. All Schindler needs to do is click call and haul in with his call included what would be an over 200K pot.
I don't like people being able to wear masks at the table. Blocks so much of your face. I feel like should get rid of them. Like people aren't. I don't even know. Like they don't let people wear sunglasses anymore, right? They should take the masks away. Come on now.
Oh, Ivan Liao was wearing his shades earlier.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean everybody here took a COVID test, so I don't like it. You know, in live poker, you should be able to see someone's face, or most of their face, unless they want to like put it in their sleeve or something.
It's relevant, no doubt.
I really think that probably 90% or more of the people wearing the masks are not doing it because they're really afraid about COVID, but are doing it for the advantage it gives in that particular case.
Well, I guess Jake didn't see that coming. He's got that look of consternation on his face as he's making this decision.
He looks so like inside the fire burns so hot, you know, like so angry.
Well,
He's gonna rip you into pieces.
getting raced on the river is never fun.
No.
The turn is, you know, pretty normal stuff, right? Like Jake betting with top pair and Soiza calling with, you know, what is now a pretty good combo draw along with a showdownable jack. All seems normal and fine. So let's get to the good stuff. It's the river.
Okay, good.
Schindler's initial bet is worth discussing because most players in the poker world are not going to value bet here. You made the point that most high-level players are. Jake Schindler is a high-level player, so sure, he's going to make this value bet. He's going to try to get called by exactly this type of hand, right?
Absolutely right. Like the hand that checks back the flop and calls the turn. While there are some draws there's definitely a lot of jacks and a lot of like pocket pairs below the jack, some ace highs, hands that are bluff catching. Like the entire bluff catching, you know,
catalog
range. Yeah, catalog exactly. Is here and ready to make this call potentially.
Apparently not.
Yeah, apparently
not. So I think this is a very interesting play by Soiza, and you can come at it from a lot of different angles. The first thing that's negative about it is that it doesn't feel like it's a great representation of the value that he would actually do this with. Now, we don't really know anything about Christopher Soiza, but most players, in my opinion, are not going to be raising anything for value beyond a flush.
Yeah.
Right? It's flush, and usually like 9 or 10 high flush or better, right?
I mean, Jake is the one who's uncapped here. I mean, I guess in theory, now that Soiza's raised, I guess they both could have the nuts. But Jake can absolutely have as a flush or a straight, but especially a flush. So it's very strange. It'd be strange to raise anything but a flush yourself, in a good one, like you're saying.
Right, and then we go back and rewind the hand and think, oh, what happened on the flop? Soiza did not bet the flop. Now, sure, we're at high levels. You're going to be balanced. You're going to check some flush draws on the flop.
Yeah.
But you're going to want to bet flush draws on the flop. Everybody wants to bet flush draws on the flop, right?
Of course
it's just
they
a way
do.
easier way to play the hand.
On this board especially, you'd be betting that a lot.
Even if Soiza is balanced and does check some flush draws on the flop, he's not going to check that many, and that significantly reduces his value combos here, which makes the story not amazing in our mind.
I agree. I think as Schindler, I'm not surprised Schindler tanks here, right? It's a very strange story, and Schindler's got a key card in his hand,
Right.
which is the 7 of clubs.
Yes, but there's another piece to Soiza's side of it,
Yeah.
which is we thought it was pretty normal for Schindler to value bet queen 7 here, right?
Yeah.
And you thought that on the podcast you talked about his value could go as low as king jack, you think, for Jake Schindler.
I do.
That means there are a lot of combos of value that are better than Soiza's hand, but pretty weak.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe Soiza recognizes that and recognizes that sure, Schindler has bluffs. When he has bluffs, I'm going to win anyway when I raise here. That's going to be great. And I can also get to fold out a lot of his value because combinatorially, that's a pretty heavy load right there. All of the queens that Schindler can have and the king jack and ace jack in his range.
I mean, I think if we're doing that, we can include 2 pair combos too, which feel just as bad when you get raised as with
Right,
top
but Jake
pair,
is
pretty
going to
much.
sometimes call. He's going to call with some pieces of his range.
Of course he is, but I'm saying like there's a lot of hands that really are uncomfortable with this and may feel like obliged to respond in a similar way.
Right.
You know, it's just like I kind of have to fold. Like 2 pair on this board isn't great against the guy who suddenly shows up with a raise on the river.
I agree. So that's to credit Soiza's raise.
Yeah.
Here, to say like you know you're going to put Schindler in an uncomfortable spot with a lot of his range.
And of course, Soiza is blocking straights, and with the jack of clubs, although he has a pair with it, he's blocking some flushes.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So that
which
makes
is-
it good.
It's all good. So on to Schindler's decision.
Yeah.
You can see he doesn't want to fold, but he ultimately ends up doing it.
Yeah.
He's really pretty low in his distribution, right? He's not that high. He does have the 7 of clubs, which is nice.
The club helps.
But out of the big blind, he has maybe literally every combo of flush
I think so.
available.
I think
so
he does.
that really lowers us in our distribution immediately.
Yeah.
And it would be really great to have a bigger club because we were saying that Soiza is probably going to raise the 9 or 10 high club at worst, flush at worst, right? So we'd want to
Probably.
block more combos of that. And in order to do that, we'd have to have a 9 or 10 of clubs or higher. That just is combinatorially better
Yeah.
for blocking.
And to be clear, one of the reasons why we think Soiza would be raising like just the good flushes is partially because of Schindler's sizing on the river where he bets about 70% of the pot. If Schindler bet tiny, then I think that would open up a lot more value raises for Soiza. But Soiza is saying like, I see you think you have a good hand. You're at least repping a strong hand, not just like an okay hand, like a good hand. And I still feel comfortable raising you. So that would be like only the good flushes.
Yep.
We think.
Right. So Schindler doesn't block those as well as he could, right?
Right.
Which is why it would be way better to have a bigger club. And I imagine he might have called if he had queen 10 with the 10 of clubs. It's possible he would have made that call, right?
Yeah. I mean, queen 10 with the 10 of clubs feels like a great calling hand.
Yeah. But ultimately, this just feels like an incredibly close spot, and I don't know what you're supposed to do. I think folding is fine. I think it turns out fine.
I think you should fold most of the time unless your opponent you think is overly bluffy here, and then you just have to close your eyes and grit your teeth and call basically. But assuming Soiza's relatively balanced, he's playing all these high rollers, he's successful, we think he's a pro. I'm guessing he's like not going to be overly weighted in one direction or the other here. So based on Schindler's hand, I can understand why he tanks. This is incredibly close. You block some stuff. You don't have a very strong hand. Where does this really fall in the distribution? Help me!
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Wesley Cannon. No RTAs allowed. Let's solve it.
Let's do this.
All right. We're going to solve it with Pio. Going back to the flop. Not much happened there, So not much to say. But Soiza should lean towards betting, even though he checked, which is okay. It's fine to check. Pio doesn't care.
I was indifferent mostly here.
Doesn't care at all. Let's get to the
Okay.
turn. That's where the stuff really starts happening.
Cool.
Here's an interesting output that Wesley got from Pio. Schindler should bet this hand, but only because he has the 7 of clubs. He's not supposed to bet queen 7 without the 7 of clubs. And this is as thin as he should go for value leading the turn.
See, that's really surprising to me. I understand why the 7 of clubs makes this a more attractive bet, right? Like we're blocking the clubs.
flush, yeah.
Sure, but still, like, it's weird. Like, I would think we could bet so much more and be balanced, but apparently Pio doesn't think so.
I guess not. I guess it has enough 2-pair and flush combos that it's like I can't bet queen 7 of diamonds here. I just can't do it. I just can't bring myself to do it.
I think there'd be things you'd want to be protecting against too. It's odd to me.
It is, but Pio's it's a nut that you can't crack all the time.
That's true.
Except for this is a pretty obvious output. Soiza's hand is a must call. Jack 10 with a jack of
course
clubs.
it
You can't
is.
really raise. There's not really any reason for that, and can't fold.
You're
Obviously.
ahead a lot of the time.
Yep, that's it. That's that.
Okay.
We've done it. All right, the river, the flashy stuff. Let's get to the flash. Interestingly enough, Schindler can bet again for value on the river, despite the queen 7 with the 7 of clubs being the very bottom of the barrel of his value on the turn. Supposedly because the river is a mostly neutral card and no draws come in. I guess that's interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah,
That's a weird outcome, man.
it is. Blocking flushes is hugely valuable to the solver in this case, I suppose.
I guess. Yeah.
But aren't you worried about a bigger queen or something? I don't know. I guess not.
I mean, it checked back the flop,
Yeah.
right? It's usually he doesn't have a queen.
Yeah. Or a
But-
flush draw, by the way, because he checked back the flop. Whatever.
Yeah.
We don't need to relitigate the hand.
We're not going to.
Soiza's hand makes a much better call than a raise.
Well,
according to
yeah,
bio.
his
Yeah.
hand blocks the bluffs. Sorry, blocks the big value, not
Yeah.
the bluffs. And he also has a reasonably made hand, right?
Yeah.
He's got a nice second pair. Seems like a very natural call. It's interesting that he chose to turn it into a raise anyway.
Well, it looks like he was right, and it worked, so maybe shut up.
Oh,
Consider that.
yeah. Yeah, I'm currently
Yeah.
considering.
All right. Well, should it have worked? That's the question.
Yes.
The answer is no. Schindler, despite back on the turn, the solver barely wanting to bet this hand at all, thinks it can bet call this hand on the
Yeah.
river because of the 7 of clubs. The blocker is so important. This is like to illustrate how important it is that even queen 8 is a fold for Schindler, which is 2 pair. That's a fold.
Right.
But queen 7 with the 7 of clubs is a call.
Well, when he raises, he's really repping a flush and a flush only.
Yes, he
right?
is.
I mean, I guess he could have a straight and be going super thin, but a flush makes a lot more sense.
Yep. So I guess that makes some sense, but it is surprising that the solver even wants to call with this hand. I would think this would be low enough in the distribution that you could fold.
Well, the solver probably is like, this is a weird fishy line with the flush anyway, that you don't have that many flushes on this line where you check back, right? And then me having the club just makes it even less likely. So I'm forced to put the chips in, baby. Kind of thing. That's all I got. Just another hand that makes your head go, what? So what do you guys think about this? Mostly this is really about the river, I would say, in terms of the decisions here, although the check on the flop is even, I guess it's fine. Do you think, like, Soiza can raise here? Do you think Schindler should actually fight a call? The solver wants him to call. I get that. It's a weird story. Can you really call here? Should you even be raising? Let us know in the comments.
You should call your family and tell them to join our Discord because it's a lot of fun and it's not exactly family friendly, but you could pretend
Well,
it's family friendly.
It's not
When you're
unfamily.
talking to your family, you can tell them it's family friendly.
It's not family unfriendly.
Yeah, it's not a horrific place, but
I mean,
it is the internet.
don't leave them alone.
Yeah, but we'll see you there.